Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the homestead. Well, we've got a busy day today. It's Friday, which means that it is the day to get ready for the farmer's market. But that's not the only thing on our list today. We also have to finish planting our summer garden. We have just a few more plants to get in, and that garden will be complete.
Yesterday, Kevin and I got a lot of work done in the summer garden, so we're excited to finish that up and show you guys everything that we have planned to be growing in that garden. But before we begin all of that, we actually have to let all the animals out there still in their houses from overnight. So let's go.
Look how big the ducklings are getting. They don't know it yet, but this weekend they're going to go in with the big ducks and then they'll be able to free range. Morning, chicken.
The ducks are definitely ready to come out. The goats are doing really well. The babies that we had, we're keeping this little baby, but the other two actually went to their new home last Sunday. They were adopted by a family that is close by, which is nice, and that's the start of their herd, so they're very excited. They've already been fed today and milked, so everybody's pretty content already.
Well, it's time to get back to work in the summer garden. We have just a few things left to plant today and a couple of our trellis fences left to put up.
The only things left we have to plant are the cucumbers, edamame, and one row of peppers.
The rest is all done, so we're gonna get to work and then we'll show you everything we have in when we're done getting the rest planted. So we're installing our trellis here for our pinto beans. For trellises, what we use are T-posts, 6-foot T-posts, and field fencing, just the cheap field fencing that you can buy. It's not cheap, but it's the least expensive of the field fencing that you can buy. It doesn't have to be the small holes for sheep or goats. It'd just be standard cattle fencing. We put it up, we put T-posts about every 10 feet along the garden, and then we just put 3 T-post clips on each post. Now I've made this little fence puller that I can use by hand. It's just a piece of cedar branch with some hooks in it. It will go down the row. I'll hook this on the fence and pull. Sarah will attach it to the T-posts. It doesn't need to be nearly as tight as it does when you are putting it up as an actual fence. When you're using it for trellis, it just doesn't have to be that tight. And we'll leave it about 6 inches off the ground so that the plants have some room to grow and that we can easily plant underneath it. We're gonna get busy. We're getting ready to mark our area where we're going to plant our edamame, which is a soybean. Now, we don't eat a lot of soy here on the homestead because most commercially grown soy is GMO. The type of soy that we're growing though for edamame is not a GMO soy, so I wanted to clear that up. And then I wanted to show you how we plant these beans. We're trying something different this year. In the past for beans, we've either taken 2 pieces of the woven ground cover and left a gap in between them and planted in that gap. But that still leaves quite a bit of room for weeds to come up. Since our goal is to have as little weeding as possible, we're trying something different this year that I think is going to work really well. We're just going to actually burn a small hole every 6 inches all the way down this piece of fabric. In the past, we've also tried to just burn one line down the row, and that really didn't work out well either. It made it hard to save the fabric for the next year. It was just hard to roll it up at the end of the year, and we still had the weed issue. So I think this is going to be a much better plan. So I'm just going to use my torch, and we're just going to burn a small hole every 6 inches. Now our goal here is to make a hole that's big enough to be able to plant the beans, the seeds, and also big enough for the stem of the plant to come up through, but really not much room for anything else.
So the variety of edamame or soybeans that we're going to be planting this year is called Chiba Green from Baker Creek. Now, we actually use these edamame pods. We just steam them and eat the beans fresh out of them, like if you were going to an Asian restaurant. We might freeze some if we have a huge abundance so that we can eat some over the course of the year. But it's really just a treat for us, and we're excited to try these out for the first time this year. Now, beans and these soybeans in general, when you're planting them, you want to plant them between an inch and a half down in the ground. And we are going to be planting them, like Kevin had said, every 6 inches.
So I'm planting our cucumbers. This year we're planting 2 varieties of cucumbers. The first one is called Tender Green Burpless, which is kind of a long, smooth cucumber, but it's a burpless variety, so the people who are affected by cucumbers and sometimes have a hard time eating them can eat this one pretty easily without many problems. So that's a definite plus. And then the second one that we're growing is actually my favorite cucumber, and that is called Market More. We've grown this one for several years now, and it just is always a really good producer. And they're a good slicing cucumber. So you can pick them when they're young and use them for pickling, or you can let them get big and use them for slicing, which is generally how we use most of our cucumbers here on the homestead, is just to slice them. I really like to make refrigerator pickles in the summer. In fact, I prefer to just have refrigerator pickles over canned pickles because they stay a little more crisp and they just are always right there when you need them during the summer. I'll be honest, during the winter I kind of forget about pickles. To me they seem like a summer food. So I'm going to finish out this row with our cucumbers and then we'll move on to other things. Now normally we will plant cucumbers from seed. But this year, because we've had so much rain and we're a couple of weeks behind getting cucumbers in, Sarah and I actually kind of stole from ourselves. These were ones we had started for the farmer's market. We decided to bring them over and use them for ourselves in our garden. So we're going to get these all in, and this will give us a little jump, hopefully make up some of the time that we lost by not being able to plant at exactly the right time.
Well, peppers are actually one of my favorite things to grow in the garden. I'm glad to be getting these in. We have a lot of fun varieties that we're planting this year. Lots of different colored bell peppers, some new spicy peppers, some ones that we just know we like. Last year we had such success with all of our chili peppers and my paprika peppers that I don't really have to plant many of those this year because I have so many dried yet from last year. But I am planting one new variety of paprika pepper because I'm still on the hunt for the very perfect sweet paprika pepper. And so this year I'm trying a new variety. The most exciting part of that variety is that someone sent it to us, one of our subscribers, to try. And the variety is called Feher Ozon. I think I said that right, but I'm excited to try it. Otherwise, we just have a really great variety. I'm excited for them to get into the ground and get big and start growing peppers and turning colors. It's going to be fun to chop them all up and have all these different multicolored bell peppers in our food, in our salsa, and also to sell at the farmer's market. Now you'll see that we have fencing up here for the peppers. Peppers don't really climb, but they will need some support. A lot of these varieties, and if you watched last year, we had varieties that got as tall as this fencing. And so we like to have the support for the peppers, and oftentimes we'll even tie the pepper plants to the fencing just to make sure that they don't fall over in the wind or as they just get bigger. It works really well for us.
Well, we did it. The entire garden is planted. We were really starting to get worried because we've had so much rain. In the last 4 weeks, we've had over 10 inches of rain. It has just been kind of crazy. Normally, we would have tried to get this entire garden planted by the end of the first or second week of May, but you know, here we are, almost the end of May, and we're just now getting it in. We really did have conversations between the two of us about whether or not we may have to give up planting a summer garden this year. That was a really realistic fear for us, that we wouldn't be able to get any tomatoes in or any peppers, in fear that we wouldn't have enough time and that kind of thing. But at the very last minute, the weather broke with enough time for us to get this garden planted. Now, let me tell you that we generally take a week or more to plant this garden because of other projects and other responsibilities we have on the homestead, but we had 2 days where we did absolutely nothing from sun up to sundown except for plant this garden and get all of the fence rows up, all the fencing and that kind of thing. And now, after the work we just did this morning, we are 100% planted for this summer garden. So the only thing really left to do in this garden is to put down our watering system. Now, because this is a new garden for us this year, a second garden, we don't have a watering system for this one yet. We actually have it on order from growersolution.com, and it's on its way. So as soon as that gets here, we'll be putting that down. That will save us quite a bit of effort as well. Right now we're going to have to water by hand until that is here because it's getting really hot out. We went from kind of cool, rainy weather to, you know, today's supposed to be, I think, 87 and almost no clouds in the sky. So it's been a drastic change, and, you know, those plants really kind of need to be babied through until they adjust to, you know, kind of the new weather that we're in.
So we want an opportunity to show you, you know, give you like a pre-garden tour of just planted, where everything's still pretty small, if not, you know, still in the ground in as far as seeds go. Just so you guys can see the progression over the summer. We're really excited about everything starting to grow. I do want to remind you all, though, that this is actually our second garden of this size. So this will be our summer garden. We still do have our spring garden, the same size as this, planted with all of our broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all the lettuces and greens, peas, beets, potatoes, those kinds of things. So we still do have that, and they're growing, and we're taking care of that, and it's coming up to big harvest for them. So I just wanted to remind you of that when we talk about what we have in our summer garden. It doesn't include some of the things that maybe everybody will have in their garden right now, but that's because it's just in another location.
Right. So the first part of the garden, which I'll admit doesn't look very exciting right now, but in just a few weeks it's going to look awesome when all of these plants start to come up. The first two rows here are cantaloupe. We're growing two different kinds this year, an early variety and a little bit later variety. I put them right here at the front of the garden so that I can keep a close eye on them, because they are something that I absolutely love on a hot day. There's nothing better than just having a bowl of cut up cantaloupe in the refrigerator to be able to just go in and snack on when you're getting warm outside. And then right after that is watermelon. Watermelon is another thing that is probably just as good. I don't know. I love them both so much in the summer. Just having those cold things to go and snack on when it's so hot outside is awesome. So this whole front part of the garden is going to be for melons this year. Now, one thing you're not going to notice that we have in this garden is corn. And that's because we're putting corn in a separate place on the homestead this year. We're actually going to do it outside of the garden so we can use a bigger area to till up and actually use for corn. So we will be planting sweet corn. In fact, we're hoping to get that in within the next week so that we can get that coming up as well. But that's not going to be part of this main garden. We reserved more of this garden for the melons so that we can get a big harvest of those this year.
Next up after the melons is our first row of beans. This row of beans is actually going to be a variety of pinto beans. We eat a lot of beans over the winter, and so we really want to start growing our own so we don't have to rely on buying them from the store or bulk buying, which is what I do right now. The variety that we're growing this year is from Baker Creek. It is Tiger Eye, and actually the variety name of it is that in Spanish, and I can't think of it right now. Gorgeous looking beans, and apparently they're supposed to taste really good. So these guys will climb on here, and then we'll harvest them, dry them, and store them for the winter. We have two more rows of beans after that, and these are going to be our green beans. We are growing bush green beans, the contender variety. We actually are planting 1.5 full rows of the green beans. The other half of the green bean row is going to be wonder berries, which is similar to a huckleberry, good for pies and jams. We've never tried it before. We're excited to see how they will do. Another name for them is garden huckleberries, so I think they're going to be very similar to it. They ripen to a deep purple, almost blackish color, and apparently they will grow and be completely done with their growing harvest like an annual, so we don't have to worry about many years trying to get to the point of the berry stage.
So next up is our okra. This year we're doing two varieties of okra. The first is the Clemson Spineless. This is one that we've done in the past that we've really liked. And the other one is called Eagle Pass. The Eagle Pass is supposed to be a little bit shorter of a pod, a little bit fatter, and they're also supposed to be quite a bit less slimy inside. So if you don't really like okra because of that sliminess, this is a variety that's supposed to be better for you. So I don't really mind. Personally, I love to eat okra straight out of the garden, just raw. When I'm out here working, I just pick it and eat it. I love okra just about any way you can prepare it. Just like we did for the cucumbers, we decided to steal some of our starts from the farmer's market supply. And so we planted the Clemson spineless from starts this year. We're hoping that will give us a little bit leg up on that season, and we'll see how that works out.
Next up are the peppers. This year we're growing 2 full rows of peppers, so total about 60 pepper plants. Lots of variety, like I said before. We're doing orange, yellow, lilac bells, 2 different types of just standard green bell peppers, the King of the North and the Emerald Giant, which is actually my absolute favorite. We are growing a red roasting pepper called Ajvarsky, which I'm super excited about. Lemon drop peppers, that paprika pepper that I was telling you about, the Feher Ozon. Then we have some of the spicy peppers. We're growing the Craig's Grande jalapeno, serrano, the hot wax, and I think those are the only spicy ones we have this year. But we're also doing regular banana peppers because Samantha loves them so much. And lastly, we are trying the Nadapeño, which is from Baker Creek, and it's a jalapeno that is not spicy. So that is what we're growing. I think I covered them all. That's what we're growing for the peppers.
Next up is the part of the garden that is, come on, my favorite part of the garden. You guys know that. It is our tomato section. This year we're growing 3 rows of tomatoes. In the past we've only grown 2 rows, but we depend on these tomatoes to provide a year's supply of every tomato product that we eat for our family. So this year we're trying our tried and true varieties, the ones that we always grow, that we know do really well for us, and then we're growing a 3rd row that we're calling our experimental row. So first up is our row of slicing tomatoes. Now these are the tomatoes that we'll use for our canned tomatoes, our stewed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, salsa, tomato juice. All of those types of things will come from these tomatoes. We're growing 2 varieties this year. We're growing the Jet Star, which is the variety that we grow every single year. This is a tomato that will never be without in our garden, is the Jet Star. And then the second half of the row is called Jet Setter, which is supposed to be very similar to the Jet Star, but it's actually supposed to be a little bit earlier producer. A lot of people that we talk to locally have told us that the Jet Setter actually does better than the Jet Star here in southern Missouri. So we're giving it a try this year based on many recommendations that we got for it. The next row after this is going to be our sauce tomatoes. These are the drier type tomatoes, like a Roma tomato is what you may see it called in the store. We're growing 2 varieties this year. The first one is called Opalka. The Opalka is an heirloom variety and it does really well for us. The second one that we're growing is called La Roma. As you might guess, it's a Roma type tomato and it is supposed to be very, very good for sauce. So we're trying those out this year. The next row is our cherry tomato / experimental row. We're growing 5 different varieties and 5 different colors of cherry tomatoes this year. We're growing the Brad's Atomic, which is a multicolored tomato from Baker Creek. It's a cherry grape sized tomato. We're growing Sun Gold, which is an orange tomato, Sweet Million, which is a red cherry tomato, the Yellow Pear, which is a yellow tomato, and then the last one is the Chocolate Cherry, which is a dark red cherry tomato, which if you haven't had those, you need to try them. They are amazing. After that, we've got some brand new varieties that we've never grown before that we're trying down at the other end of this row. All right, so on to the experimental section of our tomatoes this year. The first one is Lemon Boy. This is actually a variety that the person who sells next to us at the farmer's market recommended, and so she gave us some of the starts to try. So we've got a couple of those in. After that, we have the Dad's Sunset. Now this is the variety that we're also growing over in our other garden to supply seed for Baker Creek. Sarah made me plant 3 of these over here so that I actually have some to eat and I'm not stealing from the seed ones that we're trying to grow for Baker Creek. She was worried that we wouldn't have any seeds left to give to Baker Creek if I get you know, if I take a break over in that row, there's a good chance they'll all be gone. After that, we have Paul Robeson, which is a highly recommended, nice slicing tomato. It's supposed to be kind of a multi-purpose tomato. We're excited to try that. After the Paul Robeson, we have the Cherokee Purple. Now, last year we did a video where we asked you guys for suggestions on what we should try this year, and the Cherokee Purple was hands down the most popular variety that you guys recommended. So we put in a few of those this year to see how they do here in the Ozarks. After that, we have the Amish paste. Now, this is a favorite of some of our friends, Danny and Wanda from Deep South Homestead. You should go check out their channel. They always grow the Amish paste tomatoes and absolutely love them. And if they do really well, they may be making it over into our main row next year for our sauce tomatoes. We're going to see how they do here first, but we have high hopes for them. And the last part of this row are two varieties of beefsteak tomatoes. We're growing these in hopes that we'll be able to take these to the farmer's market to sell. Now, the cherry tomatoes that we're growing this year will also be taken to the farmer's market to sell. Obviously not all of them, but a lot of them will be ending up. We're going to make multicolored baskets of tomatoes to take to the farmer's market. I can tell you this from experience, as being someone who has sold at a farmer's market now for several years, is that when it comes to cherry tomatoes, people are very open to eating different colored tomatoes. But when it comes to normal, big slicing tomatoes, people really want a red tomato. People want a tomato that looks like a tomato, and that's what we're going to be taking to the market this year. I don't know why that is. People are much more adventurous with the cherry tomatoes than they are with their tried and true tomatoes that they want for a BLT or for just eating.
And now we're to the last row. We've talked a little bit about this already. We've got our two kinds of cucumbers here and then edamame in the back. Now, edamame, again, is a soybean that you actually eat fresh. You steam it and then eat it fresh, and it's very good. This year we have significantly downsized the amount of cucumbers that we're growing. Last year we grew so many cucumbers, and actually the year before, that we had 5-gallon buckets that we were taking down to the pigs. And at first they enjoyed them, but by the end of cucumber season, they didn't even want to eat them.
So there you have it. That's what's in our main summer garden this year. We're so excited to finally have it planted. Now, like I said, there are still other things that we need to plant. Just because we're done with the main garden doesn't mean we're done. We still have our corn to get in, hopefully this week. We still have the sunflowers to plant. For those of you who have been following us for a while, you may have heard about our sunflower experiment that we're going to do this year. Otherwise, let me tell you about it right now. The entire front of our property, which is along the road, is going to be planted in a 6-foot wide patch of sunflowers. I think it's about 350 or 400 feet of sunflowers that we're going to plant. And then we're going to attempt in this fall to make our own sunflower oil. We're going to buy just a hand sunflower press and see if we can make our own sunflower oil.
I also have 2 more gardens to plant. I have a pretty extensive herb garden yet that I still need to plant, and I'm really hoping that our outdoor shower this year I can plant and build a cottage garden near that, so we can have a place to just sit down and rest and enjoy and then cool off in our outdoor shower. So we still do have a lot of work to do. It's not like we can just, you know, start sitting around waiting for the tomatoes to come in.
And then we still have some big plans to try pumpkins and squash in some other areas of the property. We're actually going to try growing some of those down around our pond this year to see how they will do down there. So we have some big plans. We still have a lot of work to get done. And so we're excited that summer is finally here. Well, thanks for spending the day with us as we get our summer garden ready. We're so happy that you were able to see it just as it's starting, so that as you follow along through the summer, you can see this whole garden start to grow and produce food for our family.
You guys, if you are not subscribed yet, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to us. And if you would share our channel with other people who would enjoy it, we would love that. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.